When a zoo employee threw a black boy into the lion enclosure, everyone thought tragedy would strike, but no one could have predicted what would happen next. The early morning sunlight filtered through the curtains of the small, cozy apartment where the Rodriguez family lived in Brighton Springs. The day had been meticulously planned. Miguel Rodriguez, his wife Elena, and their young son Mateo were about to experience a family day that held the promise of joy and wonder. Today was Mateo's first trip to the Sunnyvale Zoo, a day Miguel had longed for as much as his son. Growing up, he had never been to a zoo. His family hadn't been able to afford outings like that. He had always imagined that one day he would take his own child to see the animals, and he was determined to make it a day Mateo would always remember. Breakfast was lively as Mateo, barely able to sit still, was practically buzzing with excitement, his voice a steady stream of questions about lions, tigers, and elephants. He had been up for hours, packing his small backpack with essentials, a water bottle, his favorite superhero toy, and the well-worn picture book about wild animals that had sparked his love for the zoo in the first place. Elena smiled, watching her son's eagerness, though she and Miguel exchanged a look, silently acknowledging the unspoken worries they both carried. Being out and about in public wasn't always easy for them. No matter where they went, they encountered glances, stares that lingered a bit too long. But Miguel was determined that nothing would taint this day for his son. As they left the house, Miguel took a deep breath, feeling his resolve strengthen as he held Mateo's hand tightly. The drive to the zoo was filled with chatter, with Mateo peppering his parents with questions. Lions topped his list of animals to see, and Miguel chuckled, thinking back to the evenings he spent reading the animal book to his son, who had quickly learned to mimic the sounds each animal made. Lions held a special place in Mateo's heart. He often spoke about wanting to be brave, like a lion. Arriving at the bustling entrance of Sunnyvale Zoo, Miguel noticed a staff member eyeing them from a distance. The employee, Carl Owens, looked at them with a frown, his expression unwelcoming. Miguel dismissed it. He was used to these kinds of looks, but he couldn't help but feel a slight unease. Still, he brushed it off, focusing on his son's excitement. The day unfolded with laughter as they moved from exhibit to exhibit. They first entered the aviary, where vibrant tropical birds flitted around. Mateo's laughter filled the air as a bright blue parrot perched nearby, eyeing him with curiosity. Elena took photos, capturing the wonder on Mateo's face as he reached out to the birds. Miguel watched them with a pang of joy, feeling like this moment was everything he had ever wanted, a happy family making memories together. As they wandered through the reptile house, where Mateo marveled at the enormous snakes and lizards, Miguel noticed Carl Owens again, lurking near the entrance, watching them with that same intense gaze. Miguel shrugged off the unease, reminding himself that today was about Mateo. After a snack break, they finally made their way to the lion enclosure, Mateo practically vibrating with excitement. Pressing his hands to the glass, he stared in awe at the magnificent animals lounging in the sun. One lion lifted its head, meeting Mateo's gaze with its powerful amber eyes, and Miguel couldn't help but feel a swell of pride as he watched his brave, unafraid son. But Miguel's unease returned when he spotted Carl again, standing near the enclosure, his expression hostile. Miguel tightened his grip on Mateo's shoulder, feeling an anger begin to simmer inside him. He had spent his whole life enduring these subtle hostilities, the quiet judgments, the long stares. Today, though, for Mateo's sake, he forced himself to ignore it. Elena seemed to sense Miguel's tension, and she placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "Let's just focus on Mateo," she said softly, guiding them toward a picnic area where they could sit and take a moment to relax. As they ate, Mateo recounted his favorite moments of the day so far, his excitement so pure it lifted Miguel's spirits. But as they left the picnic area, Carl Owens appeared again, his gaze darkened as he watched their family walk by. Miguel's unease turned into outright tension. He had tolerated Carl's staring for most of the day, but his patience was wearing thin. However, Miguel didn't want to ruin the day with a confrontation, so he steered Mateo toward the next exhibit. The day continued, with Mateo's laughter filling the air as they visited the monkey enclosure, where a baby chimp swung from branch to branch, and then the aquarium, where shimmering schools of fish painted patterns across Mateo's delighted face. At every turn, Miguel felt grateful for this day, yet the presence of Carl's stare weighed on his mind. He could feel Carl lurking in the background, as if waiting for something. As they approached the lion enclosure again for a final look before leaving, Miguel noticed Carl standing just a few paces away. This time, Carl's expression was even darker, his eyes fixed on Mateo. Miguel's jaw clenched, but he didn't want to cause a scene. He bent down to Mateo, intending to distract him from Carl's gaze, but before he could speak, he felt a hard shove from behind. Stumbling forward, Miguel turned just in time to see Carl disappear into the crowd, leaving a sense of foreboding hanging in the air. He gathered his family, moving toward the exit, determined to get them to safety. But just as they reached the final stretch, Carl appeared again, blocking their path with a cold smirk. Miguel tried to steer Mateo around him, but Carl moved suddenly, pushing Mateo toward the edge of the lion enclosure. In a flash, everything spiraled into chaos as Mateo stumbled, teetered, and fell. Elena's scream cut through the air as Mateo landed inside the enclosure, his small figure sprawled just feet away from the massive lions lounging under the midday sun. The crowd gasped, horrified, as the lions turned their gaze toward the boy. Miguel's heart froze as he watched Mateo struggle to his feet, disoriented and frightened. Above him, Miguel clung to the barrier, his voice trembling as he shouted, "Mateo, stay still!" hoping his son would hear him. Mateo, terrified, but remembering his father's words about bravery, forced himself to remain calm. One of the lions began to move, its powerful muscles rippling as it approached. Miguel's heart pounded as he gripped the railing, helpless to do anything but pray that his son would be safe. In the silence, all eyes were on Mateo and the lion, as the massive animal stopped just inches from him, its amber eyes studying the small, trembling figure before it. Mateo extended his hand slowly, his fingers trembling as he reached out, not entirely sure what he was doing, but feeling compelled to show the lion he meant no harm. The lion lowered its head, sniffing at Mateo's hand, then gently nuzzled him, brushing its rough nose against his fingers in an almost protective gesture. The crowd gasped, and Miguel felt tears of relief spring to his eyes, hardly able to believe what he was witnessing. The lion turned, retreating to the shade as zookeepers rushed to pull Mateo from the enclosure. As they lifted him to safety, Miguel and Elena wrapped their arms around their son, their relief overwhelming. Mateo, though shaken, managed a small smile. "I was brave, Daddy," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Miguel hugged him tightly, whispering, "You were so brave, Mateo. I'm so proud of you." As they made their way toward the exit, Miguel caught sight of Carl Owens standing nearby, a look of shock on his face. Miguel felt anger surge through him, but pushed it aside, focusing on getting his family out safely. He knew he would confront Carl later, but for now, all that mattered was Mateo's safety. In the days that followed, Miguel and Elena contacted a lawyer named Samuel Gray, determined to seek justice for what Carl had done. Samuel assured them they had a strong case and moved quickly to contact the zoo, demanding accountability. The incident gained media attention, with news outlets covering the story of Mateo's miraculous encounter and the malicious actions that had endangered him. An investigation into Carl Owens revealed a troubling history of complaints about his hostile behavior toward families, particularly those who were marginalized. The public outcry grew as more people came forward, sharing their own unsettling experiences with Carl. The zoo issued a formal apology to the Rodriguez family and implemented new policies to ensure that such an incident would never happen again. Carl Owens faced criminal charges, and the community rallied around the Rodriguez family, supporting their fight for justice. Over time, Mateo began to heal from the trauma, though he occasionally had nightmares about that day. Miguel and Elena encouraged him to talk openly about his feelings, assuring him that he was safe. One evening, as they sat together, Mateo looked up at his father, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Do you think the lion remembers me?" he asked softly. Miguel smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "I think he does, Mateo. He saw your bravery and knew you weren't afraid. You showed him kindness, and he respected you for that." As the legal proceedings concluded, Miguel felt a profound sense of closure. They had fought for their son, for justice, and for a safer world for families like theirs. They knew that they had faced unimaginable challenges, but through it all, they had remained strong, united by their love for Matteo. And in those quiet moments, Miguel reminded himself that his son's courage and the strength of their family had overcome even the darkest of fears.